So, hello everybody. Today we are back with our heroines who basically died, but of course you don't ever really die, because today I would like to look into another topic that is part of the rules, and that is mass combat. Now, mass combat is something that, of course, is kind of at the heart of the first edition of the role-playing game that Through Sunken Lands and other OSRs are based on, because obviously the people who created this role-playing game came from a background of miniature wargaming, where you basically had armies, large armies, fighting each other, and of course there were rules. And if you want to see what such a game is like, you can search through my channel, because I used to play war games as well, not with miniatures, but with chits, hence the name, Chits and Cats. But the idea is the same. You have little figurines or pieces of cardboard that represent troops of a certain strength. So it could be a skirmish game with only very few troops, or it could be a large-scale game where you basically have one chit that represents, I don't know, a whole legion or parts of a legion, if you talk SPQR, for example. And so the idea of being able to conduct mass combat using rules in an RPG are definitely not new. Now, I've never really looked at how other role-playing games do it. I know that there is an absence of rules in DSA, Das Schwarze Auge, although they insist on conducting large-scale battles and always fail, because they are the ones that really make the lives of players miserable and the lives of the DM even more so. Through Sunken Lands has a chapter on this, and it's called War and Battle. And it is only, well, when I say only, it is 4 pages of rules. And then you have the aftermath, which basically details different outcomes that you would choose from. So, quite often in Sword and Sorcery, the hero will become the leader of a unit, or will join an army of a high king or something like that. And in some cases, like Conan, for example, he even becomes king. When such a large-scale battle occurs, where our protagonists will take part, the above rules for combat will not suffice, because that's hand-to-hand or, one-to-one, one to, let's say, several combat, but not many-to-many combat. And these mass combat rules are designed to help play through an epic battle shaped by the PC's own contributions, because the problem is always, what do the PCs do when it's actually 2 armies clashing? An epic battle means hundreds or thousands of soldiers on each side arrayed across a large battlefield, usually commanded by a powerful general. Each side will have numerous heroes leading hundreds of soldiers. So if you've ever read the Iliad, then this is a perfect description of that book or that epic, really, because you have innumerable, although they do sometimes enumerate them, groups of warriors on both sides, Trojan and Achaean, and they basically battle each other and kill each other and are left for dead on the battlefield, and then later their bodies are retrieved. But it really centers around the heroes, and in the Iliad, those heroes will be riding on chariots driven by a driver, and then basically dismount and then usually engage in a duel with a hero from the other side. And while these heroic duels don't decide the battle, so it's not like, you have 2 armies standing off, and then each army will name a champion, and then they would battle it out, and then whoever wins, their army takes the day. But it's really about zooming in on these heroes, because they are somewhat different and somewhat special, which of course is the case for our gaming system as well. The heroes are different from normal guys. They are stronger. They have maybe fate on their side or one of the fates on their side, but basically it is about them. In the rules, it's described thusly. Usually commanded by a powerful general, each side will have numerous heroes leading hundreds of soldiers. The player characters are disproportionately powerful in the battle, able to affect it during preparation and in the fighting itself, each time with as much effect on the outcome as a major lord or demon of chaos. During the preparation phase, the PCs help their army prepare to fight its enemies. It is here that we play through the nervous wait in the trenches surrounding the twisted spire of eldritch sorcery, the rousing speech on the city walls before the barbarian hordes launch their assault, or the desperate scouting mission behind enemy lines. The aid and preparation of the PCs will establish a modifier called the tide of battle. So this is the first thing we need to establish. The tide of battle. Then this is followed by the battle itself. During this phase, the PCs and the common soldiers make their stand and fight. Here is the clash of steel, the screams of the dying, and the fall of the great. The generals make their battle rolls, modified by the tide of battle and results, as it were, and players may roleplay vignettes of their characters fighting their foes and perhaps altering the course of the battle. The aftermath. During this phase, the PCs and the GM discover the toll of the battle and count their losses and victories. Here, comrades fall, objectives are seized, and a war can be won. The sides take turns using their success in battle to seize their objectives and destroy their foes. Preparation. If the battle is not a surprise, the players can roleplay vignettes and make skill rolls to aid their side in the battle. And let's just focus on this one. Let's just say that there's a war brewing and it's not a surprise that it's happening. The scouting of the battlefield or the laying of clever traps. Each player is allowed to have their character meaningfully impact the coming battle in one specific way, almost always through an appropriate skill roll. The game master should go around the table in initiative order and ask each player what he would like his character to do. The GM is, as always, the final arbiter. Remember, this game doesn't have like a long list of skills. It is really about what does the character feel and the player by extension feel their character can contribute. So they are not restricted in any way. This could also mean that a really strong fighter might actually opt to not do some fighting preparation like training, but they might be very charismatic as well. They might give a rousing speech. The thief, on the other hand, might not even say, I'm going to go scouting. They might think about creating traps. So or even a really skilled thief that with high charisma could say, I'm going to give a speech. You know, these are things that are left to the players and the characters, and it has to make sense, which is why the GM is the final arbiter, but it's really completely open. So the GM is always the final arbiter of what is an appropriate action, what penalties or bonuses may apply to the role, and what skills might be applicable. The degree of success, and here again we have the idea of degree of success, of each of these preparation roles will add to the tide of battle according to the following table. This tide of battle number will modify the roll for the battle itself in the next phase. If you lose by 10 or more, -4, and if you made it by 10 or more, +4. And then you have like -4, -2, -1, +1, +2. Since players will tend to succeed most of the time, large groups of players will have a decided advantage. If all of the players are on the same side of battle, which is usually the case, the GM should give the side a modifier for every 2 players. Should give the other side a +1 modifier for every 2 players. So we have 2 players in our case, Hanabshili and Ifianasa. So basically we get a +1 to the opposing side. So this is our side and their side. And they're getting a +1 out of the gate because we have 2 characters. And then, of course, this is followed by a really nice example. So I will highlight that every rule is explained with a player example. So Example, Tehar, Imoril and Jin Liang find themselves in the command of a mercenary force facing down the huge horde, a fearsome band of mutants in the service of a great champion of chaos. Before the battle, Tehar drills the soldiers, Imoril scouts the terrain, and Jin Liang gives a speech to boost the morale of the troops. The GM settles each of these actions with an ability score check. Tehar does a poor job with the drills and fails his roll by 2, giving a -1 to the tide of battle. Imoril succeeds by a stunning 9 on her roll to scout the terrain, giving a +2 to the tide of battle. And Jin Liang's speech succeeds by 3, giving it a +1. Their sides of battle stands at +2 for now. So +2, +3, -1 is +2. Because the PC side has 3 characters, the GM gives the opposing side +1 in tide of battle. If the player characters are surprised, such as by a clever ambush, they not only skip the phase but also take a -4 to the tide of battle, which makes sense. Between the vignettes, the Game Master should take stock of the armies on each side, briefly describing each of them. We provide sample units based on the number of power of the soldiers in it, but these are only guidelines. Each unit gives its side +2 to the tide of battle, and down here is actually a list. So 1,000 legionnaires, 3,000 barbarian warriors, 2,000 fishfolk, 1,000 elite barbarians, 6,000 scared peasants, 4,000 pressed soldiers, so 3,000 children of chaos, so each one grants +2. Example, the PC's mercenary force contains 3,000 footmen, which are not on the list. Okay. That's weird, because I would expect to see these in here. 1,000 archers and 500 cavalry. Checking the chart below, the GM sees that these exact force numbers are not represented, but can easily figure out a rough equivalence. No, we can't, because there are no foot soldiers, unless they are pressed soldiers. Do we have archers down here? Longbowmen. Okay, so we have 2,000 longbowmen is +2, so he has 1,000, so that's a +1. 500 cavalry, so that's not elite, so that would be a +1 so that would be a +1.5. So we have 1 and we have 0.5, and then we have like 3,000 footmen. That's a little less than 4,000 pressed soldiers, which is a 1. So I would come out at 2.5. I don't know how they arrive at 6. Again, this is it's nice that they have an example, but it doesn't tally with anything, because I have no idea how they actually calculate this, because 500 cavalry it's not elite, because elite cavalry are different, unless of course if they say 500 cavalry that is elite, then we would get a +2 for those. Then 1,000 archers is a +1, because 2,000 longbowmen equal +2, so that would be a +1. So I would still not come out at the +6, but anyway, you would try and do this, and the other side has 5,000 barbarians, which is +5, +4, no, +3 we would say. So we have here +3, and they have +3, and a band of 500 elite mounted warriors, so that would be +2, so I come out at +5. So I have no idea, because they come out at +7. So I'm unsure as to how they tally this, but then again, when I would put this together, I would actually go by these names and actually have the same names up here that I have down here. So basically now, let's see what our guys are doing. So we have archers. So it's one thing that, for example, and we have people that could be trained kind of like and drilled. Now, the problem is that we have archers and cavalry and 3,000 footmen. So Hanapshili will actually work with them on their drill, and that would be, she has no particular abilities, so she would actually be rolling against her, unless of course she takes her animal ken, which would mean she could actually try and make sure that the horses are okay. So she would be rolling against a 15. And on a 6, she succeeds by 9. So she could basically, you know, like make sure that the horses are looked after, making sure that all of their hooves are cleaned and that kind of thing. So she would be contributing a +2 to the tide of battle. And our friend Ifianasa is going to take a look at, she's gonna scout. So she's gonna roll against a 22 because she has a dexterity of 18. So she's gonna scout to see what the enemy comes up to. And she rolls a natural 1. This is the best result ever. So I will grant her a +5 on this, because not only does she pass by 10 or more, but it's a natural 1, so it's a +5. So at the moment, we are at 10 and the enemy is at 6. Okay, so the tide of battle has been decided. So we definitely have a couple of good calls on our side. Then essentially we take a look at the lay of the land, and I would say it's neither here nor there, because they have actually not been scouting and deciding on a good place. They have been trying to investigate about the weaknesses of the opponent, and now the tide of battle will be rolled. So this can lead to large, so basically each side will have probably gathered a significant set of bonuses for troops, positioning, and the forbidden arts of their summoners. This can lead to large unwieldy numbers. I'm not sure why this would lead to large unwieldy numbers, because unless of course everybody adds it, but then it's only ever like, you know, if you have five players, then at most, I mean, this is a thing that I'm not sure about, because it's basic math, so I would never consider this in any way unwieldy. This can lead to large unwieldy numbers, so we take the NPC's bonus and subtract it from our player's side to get the modifier for their general's roll. So they would get a +4. If we take 10 minus 6, it's a +4. Oh, and we also just get a +4. Okay, so each of us has a +4. Okay. Okay, then the battle itself. To determine the results of the battle, take the tide of battle established during the preparation phase and apply it to a battle roll made by each side's general. Once this is established, our heroes can try to bend fate. Each general will make a battle roll by testing the most appropriate ability score and applying the tide of battle modifier and any personal skills. So, we don't really have one. So I would say that a general has, it's never going to be a strength check, that's what they say. Instead, a general will, based on her leadership style, rely on intelligence, wisdom, or charisma to achieve her goals. Skills such as tactics or strategy will obviously affect this roll. If an NPC is the leader of the troops, a player will roll for the group side nonetheless. The GM should remember that the characters, not the players, have fortune points. The Game Master will roll for the villains as usual. Most NPCs do not have ability scores, but the GM will obviously need something to check for the opposition during the step of the battle. We recommend making a quick decision on the fly, remembering that 10 is an average ability score. If the GM needs a rule of thumb, she can simply give the opposition's leader an ability score of 9 plus the leader's dice, hit dice or level. So let's just say that our leader has a 9, has a 10 plus strategy, so that's 12. So that's 12 plus 4 is 16, and the other one has a similar score. 12 plus 4 is 16, because why would they be any dumber? And we roll a 2, so we succeeded by 14, and they rolled a 5, so they succeeded by 11. And before these results are tallied, however, the characters can now decide to flee, to take on a side mission, undercover, or fight. Each PC may take part in one vignette during the battle itself after the battle rolls. So this could be anything. So as examples, Jin Liang sees that the battle is going well and, wounded from a previous encounter, decides to stay safely at the cliff top, so he does not contribute. Imoril has made friends amongst the archers and fights in their ranks. Her player rolls for a few volleys against the hordes of chaos climbing the cliffs. She neatly skewers several and starts a small rock slide for a +2 bonus on the PC's battle roll. So what we're going to do is, Ifya Nasa is actually going to use her short bow, and she is going to roll 3 times for a against, let's say, the AC of 14. So she has a 16 to hit, so that's 1, that's 2, and that's oh no, sorry, we need to roll over. What am I saying? So the first one is an 18, that's a hit. Second one is a 14, that's not a hit. Third one is a 7, that's not a hit. So she basically fires 3 volleys, one of which hits. So that's a 1 in 3rd chance. So she gets a, yeah, and then I would be at fractions, because how would I actually calculate this? So essentially there I would say she doesn't have any impact. She doesn't make it worse, but she doesn't really help. And our barbarian is going to go in, and she's going to actually stand her ground, and she's going to try and hit 3 times against a 15. That's a 9, that's not a hit. 11 is not a hit. 9 is not a hit. So they actually do not make any. And actually, she will be attacked as well. So 3 times on a 7, on a 10, that's not a hit. That's a definite hit, 1d8. So she takes 5 points of damage, and then another one, and that's also, she's 12 points down, so she is wounded. So this is how I would play it. But as you can see, this part is probably the one that is most difficult to tally, because if it says here she's gonna fire off 3 volleys, and she neatly skewers several and starts a small rock slide. I mean, how? I mean, this is really difficult for me to figure out. So I would say that this part needs a lot more work than they're describing it in. I really like the Tide of Battle though. And Tiha's player wants to see how he did leading the charge, and perhaps facing down the Chaos Champion himself, blah, blah, blah. All told, the enemy's battle roll remains a failure of 1. No, ours doesn't. So basically, both sides have managed their roll, one of them by 14. So we have won by 10 or more, so we get 3 successes. However, the enemy has also won by 3 or more, so they all by 10 or more, so they also get 3 successes. So this is a stalemate. And then in the aftermath, once the course of battle has been determined and the players have played through their part in the story, it is time to determine the results. The sides will pick their successes and failures in order, starting with the more successful. So we are more successful. Note that some of the results may reverse the other side's successes, and the sides may want to be strategic about when they take certain choices, such as capturing hostages. After taking turns with the GM picking success and failures for each side, the results of the battle stands as follows. Jin Liang and his friends chose 3 successes and 1 failure. Why? Okay, yeah. Ending with 2 instances of the deal damage choice and 1 of the claim territory choice. They destroyed most of the Chaos Champion's mutant force and forced him from the valley, claiming it for themselves. For their failure, they chose routed, and the GM describes the champion's cavalry driving their archers from the field. Okay, so successes. So we go first, the good guys. We deal damage. The other ones are also going to deal damage. Why not? Then we're going to go for take hostages. And they're going to go for loot. We're going to deal damage one more time. And they're going to take hostages as well. So that is the end. So basically both have managed to decimate the opponents. Both have taken hostages. But it is a stalemate. Nobody has won. So what do I think about these rules? I think that the basic idea is good. What I dislike is that in the example up here, they don't reflect the list down here and then come up with a result of tallying up to +8 and +8, which is not really borne out by the list down here. Because if you have 500 elite mounted warriors up here, that's +2. And if you say they have 5,000 barbarian mutants, that's not in here. So what does that count as? But basically, even then, I would only get to +6. So this doesn't make sense. So this is the basic of writing documentation. If you give an example and a list, the example has to reference the list 1 for 1. Otherwise, it's not a good example, because I have no idea how they would come up, because they've got 3 forces, 5,000 barbarians, 500 elite mounted warriors, and the champion of chaos and his retinue. So the champion of chaos and his retinue might be the necromancer and his horde. That's a +2. Then we have the 500 elite cavalry. That's a +2. But then we've got the 5,000 barbarians. We have 3,000 barbarian warriors. That would be a +2. And then we've got 2,000 more. That wouldn't be a +2. That would be a +1 max, unless, of course, we say it's a plus something, 1.5, and then we round up. Then we could get to the +8. That's fine. I have no idea how we, as the PCs, get to the +8, because we've got 1,000 archers. So that would be half of 2,000 longbowmen. So that's a +1. Then we have 500 cavalry. Are these elite? In which case we would get the +2. And then we've got 3,000 footmen. What are they? Are they 4,000 pressed soldiers? Then that would be less than +2. So I would only ever come up with a +5. Problem is, they come to a +6. So she obviously rounds up. So I have no idea how they come up with +7. Okay, yeah, I would come up with a +7 for the guys down here as well. So please, when you write examples, I know you're in the process of publishing a second supplement. Please, if you have tables and you use examples, represent the tables 1 for 1, or have larger tables, or give kind of like a clear example of how to do this. I'm a mathematician. I hate it when things are unclear. Tide of battle, I really like the idea of the preparation rolls. That's super. With regard to the battle itself, I think the vignettes need to be a lot more. I would have wanted more examples, because I mean, so she neatly skewers several and starts a small rock slide for a +2 bonus. Okay, so she fires 3 volleys. Does this mean she succeeded twice only? So that's a +2. What if she had 6? I mean, how many successes did she roll? It's not enough to say she skewered several neatly. If you're going to operate with numbers, a +2, you have to be precise as to how you arrive at that number. Was it 3 times a success? And you say, okay, a success counts for 0.25 each time, so that's a 0.75. And then she basically started the rock slide. How did she do this? These examples don't help. If you are going to award numbers for something, you have to explain how you arrive at those numbers. So this part of the rules is really badly written. I'm not a fan. With regard to the aftermath, we ended up with 2 results that are positive. And each one, okay, I was super lucky. I succeeded by 10 each time for both. So each of them gets 3 successes. That makes sense. Because that could be the case. It's what we call a Pyrrhic victory. So, well, actually, no, it's not a Pyrrhic victory. It's a victory where both sides basically work themselves to a stalemate. No one has won. I would actually say in my game, this would mean it's a devastating loss for both sides. So I would actually say, yes, you have won 3 successes, but so have the others. And both troops have been decimated. So that would be a huge, huge problem, because I would say that this means that on both sides about 10,000 people in total have died. And when you look at the numbers of troops, that's devastating. So I would say the mass combat rules are okay. They have some good ideas, but I think that they need work. And I wish that they would actually, in the upcoming Peril and Glory book, pick those up and redo them and flesh them out more, because I believe that mass combat is something that is really nice and a nice distraction from role-playing on a group level, and that groups will enjoy it, but it needs to have sound rules. And these rules in here, they are not sound. They are okay. They have some good ideas, but they definitely need work. Okay, so that's all from Through Sunken Lands and other adventures looking at the mass combat rules. Talk to you soon. Bye.